I have to warn you, EG, I'm not a skilled interviewer, so I've no idea how this is going to go. So, welcome everybody. Thank you for your precious time and watching this this podcast. I'm not entirely sure what it is yet. I am absolutely delighted to have with me today AJ. Awesome AJ. Needs no introduction.
Thank you.
The first question I'd like to ask you is, how do you go about generating new ideas for the works that you make?
Yeah, I think like generating new ideas is a sort of constant like process in any sort of creative practice, because you're kind of, well, at least it is for me, is like once I've made something, I'm immediately like, what's the next thing? You know, what am I doing next? Or in the back of my head, I'm thinking about like, oh, once I finish this, I want to start working on this, or you know, it's not always that easy, but yeah, for me, generating ideas starts like on paper. I have a lot of sketchbooks just filled with ideas and things that like probably aren't going to go anywhere, but I've just got to get them down on paper, and then out of all of that I can go in and choose like, that's one I want to take forward, or that could be better if I just develop that a bit further, so I'll take that one. And then maybe like, I don't know, 1 in 20 like design drawings or something will get like taken forward, and the rest are just like in the background. They're not quite there yet, or they will never be there, and then I'll take them on later on. But yeah, when I get sort of stuck for ideas and I don't really know where to go, I find like departing from the routine, like going home, coming back to the studio, going home, coming back to the studio. I find like doing something different will often like have me sort of just spark an idea when I'm not really expecting it. Like if I go out for the day somewhere that I haven't been before, or I don't know, I'll go for a drive somewhere and I'll maybe see something in passing, like, I don't know, a funny looking sheep, and I'll go like, oh, that's a funny looking sheep, I bet I could do something with that, or like, I don't know, something will come up when I get a bit of like art block, doing something that I wouldn't normally do every day, or like seeing new people, or sometimes I'll have like one of my creative friends come round and we'll have like an art day together, and he'll be doing like his medium is illustration, so maybe he'll do a bit of pottery and I'll do a bit of illustration, and we kind of feed off each other and sort of have a play around in each other's practices, and then that gives us ideas for our own practice.
So the ideas sort of come to you when, is it a lot of the time when you're not actually engaged in your practice?
Yeah, I think quite a lot of my ideas come along when I'm not actually like doing pottery, or thinking about pottery, or thinking about like designing the next thing. Like I'll maybe be sitting at home, or I'll wake up with an idea, and it's the sort of thing where you've had it in the back of your head for a while, and then you're like, that could be something. Or just when I'm like looking at other people's work is quite inspiring to me, like looking at other ceramicists and being like, I really like how they've done that, I want to try something. Or, oh, I've never done something that big before, how can I sort of make something to that scale that's within my skill level, or within my sort of medium restrictions, sort of thing.
There's a certain, there's a solitude associated with generating new ideas.
Yeah, it can be.
Do you feel that that's helpful? But you also mentioned the collaborative process as well, when you're collaborating with other individuals that have slightly different practices.
Yeah, it can be quite, it can be quite an isolated practice, but it also can be really helpful to have other people have like an input on it. A big difference I noticed was when I was at university, I had almost 3 years where I was at university and in a studio environment where I constantly had other people that could like look over my shoulder and be like, oh, I've just drawn out these designs, which one do you like best, or what do you think of this? And then people would suggest like, oh, maybe change that or maybe do this. And you don't have to take on that advice. Like, I think that was one of the lessons I learned at university was if my lecturers or my peers said, I don't think you should do that, you don't have to take that advice, but use that as like constructive criticism to go forward with your own thing. Because quite often it would be like, I think you should do this instead and here's my idea. But I would quite often be like, okay, well, thanks for that, but I'm going to take that and make that my own idea. But like having that input and then not having it at all in lockdown and working from home and not really having that sort of, I mean, I could send pictures and stuff to people, but it's not the same as having somebody sit with you and look through a sketchbook and have that active sort of talk with you. I did miss that. It did make me like think about things in different ways and like develop things in different ways, but I think sometimes it can be really helpful to have like other input, even if you ignore it and be like, no, I'm doing my own thing. It still gives you like a more rounded vision on like what you're creating.
Do you think it's appropriate to talk about risk within, you know, a creative endeavour?
Yeah, for sure. Because I think like when I was at university, because it's something that I've just done recently and I've sort of come out of it, but we were sort of being taught from a product design sort of perspective, which was like a good and a not so good thing, because it was like you're designing for mass production, or you're sort of bringing a mass production sort of mindset to a handmade sort of practice, or at least that's what it was for my case. So I came out of university making very sort of, I don't know, very samey, very sort of the sort of things that you might see in a I don't know, in John Lewis or like in a shop, sort of pottery. But then the sort of more risky things that I was making were the things that I was more passionate about, like my blobs and my more cartoonish things, the stuff that I was passionate about. I didn't I was like, that doesn't fit into anything that I've been taught as marketable, so I can't sell this, I can't make this my main practice, I have to have something else going on, and then maybe somebody will buy something. But because it was sort of different, people started to notice it more, and I found that once I graduated university and I'd started to sort of notice this interest in the work that I was making that I was actually passionate about and wasn't just sort of like putting out a bunch of like standard mugs, like it's totally taken over now, where I can just solely do that like creative practice that I was originally passionate about. So I think that wouldn't have came along unless I sort of took the dive of like, you know, I'm gonna focus on this for a while and see how it goes. And a lot of it is like, oh, I'm gonna try this design, I'll make like a small batch of these and see if anyone likes them, or I'll make a few different things, and some things will be more popular than others, and you can be like, oh well, I'll take that one forward and I'll leave these ones that were less popular. But without having had that sort of set of good and bad, I wouldn't have found the good in it, if you know what I mean.
I'd like to ask you one more question.
Yeah.
Best bit of advice that you've ever been given?
I know that it's in there somewhere. You can cut out me thinking.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Best bit of advice.
Best bit of advice I was given.
Oh, I just had like you know when you have a thought and it's like there and you're like,
there.
oh, that's it. Oh no.
And then I opened my big fat mouth.
No, it's
put
not
it
you.
away.
I was just like, I had a like. You go on. What was yours? 'Cause
Well,
it might jump
enjoy
on.
every sandwich.
Oh, yes.
Enjoy
Yeah.
every sandwich.
Definitely.
Definitely.
It's the little things.
It is. So little sandwiches
Absolutely.
and big sandwiches. Well, any form of sandwich is a...
Sandwiches are great.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the sandwich.
There's so much potential.
Do you cut it into... how do you cut your sandwich?
Oh, it's got to be triangles.
Do you go triangles?
I'll do like rectangles, but the triangle is superior.
Thank you very much, AJ, for taking your very precious time to have a chat on my first podcast, and I've really enjoyed it. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you guys very much for having a wee look at this, and I can only thank you for your precious time as well. Thank you.